Hey guys, Jexie here. Welcome back to another video. So in today's video, I thought I'd talk just a little bit about how I applied what I learned in recovery to other areas of my life, and how a recovery program is more than just learning how to not use drugs. So when we first get into recovery, we're generally told that working a recovery program is not just about getting off drugs, it's about changing our lives totally, right? And I think that's something that we learn more as we're in recovery for longer. Like at the very beginning, recovery is just about not using. I had to spend every day, every minute of every day, and everything I did regarding recovery to just not use drugs. Because especially your first 90 days, that's all that's on your mind is not using, right? Well, more like using, and not using is what you try to do, right? So, but the longer, as you guys know, November 6th, I'll have 7 years. And the longer I've been in recovery, the more I've learned that recovery is so much more than just not using drugs, right? I can apply the lessons I learned in recovery to just about every aspect of my life. And learning how to do that has been a journey for sure. I sometimes I feel like, I don't know, I don't know why, but sometimes I struggle more to take the principles that I've learned in recovery and apply them to my day-to-day. But I can tell you that the one time that it came in, really came into my life was towards the end of my marriage, before I left my ex-husband. And the reason I say that is because I was in a pretty toxic relationship for a while. And the relationship was toxic for a lot longer than I wanted to admit. And when it came to finally leaving, I had to apply all the same principles I learned in recovery. For example, first I had to surrender to the fact that I couldn't change another person. I couldn't make my relationship be better, right? I could work on myself all I wanted to, but if we're not working together as a partnership, it's not going to get better. And that was hard to admit, that you hear often, changing things that we can, accepting things we can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that wisdom to know the difference, I like that they use the word wisdom, right? Because it really takes wisdom to understand the difference between what we can change and what we can't. So, for example, some of the things I can change is I can change my responses to things. I can change the way I react to things. I can change those types of things. But I can't change other people's perceptions. I can't change other people's actions or motives. And, after a while, when you realize that you can't change other people, it comes time to do something different, right? My marriage was no longer healthy, and it hadn't been healthy for quite some time. And let me tell you, that was hard to admit at first. Nobody wants to admit that a marriage, I spent 11 years in that marriage, and I did not want to admit that it was failing. I did not really believe in divorce. I really believed that marriage was about making things work even when you didn't think they could work, right? I really believed that if I worked hard enough and I did certain things that I could make our marriage work. It came to the time where it's only going to work if two people are going to try to make it work, right? And my ex-husband was very, very sick, and it didn't really matter what I did. He wasn't willing to do the work he needed to do to get better, and because of that, I was out of my control. So the verbal and emotional abuse I went through was pretty high. My kids suffered a lot of it too. It takes time to work through all that. But so when it comes to recovery, once I surrendered to the idea that I couldn't change things, right? I couldn't make the relationship better. I couldn't make it be something that it wasn't. I did the next step in the program, which was ask for help, right? I had to ask people, what do I do now? I now have made the decision that I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. So now what? And it was so much like it was when I first got clean, right? When I made the decision that I didn't want to use anymore, but I didn't know what to do then, right? What do I do now? So I finally reached out for help. I talked to my family. I actually talked to my ex-in-laws, and I asked for help. I asked for suggestions, and they all said the same thing, really, which was they were really proud of me for finally making a decision like that, and that I should come up to New Jersey. And I did that, and it was not easy. That was probably the hardest day in my recovery by far. What had caused me, I'm pretty sure I spoke about this before, but what had caused me to finally make that decision that like enough was enough was the fact that I had come home one day from school shopping with my daughter. It was a Saturday, and it was Labor Day weekend, and she found one of my rings on the ground, and I had realized that that ring was in a jewelry box that was like in the back of my closet, right? And I checked my jewelry box and everything was gone. And I knew at that point, like, he was sicker than I even knew he was, and he was still in denial about it, and I couldn't do it anymore. And so the next thing that happened was the following day we went to a neighbor's house for a Labor Day pool party because the kids were going, maybe that was Sunday, I went shopping, and this was Monday. We went to a pool party. And on Sunday, my ex-husband used to really be controlling of all of the finances, right? He didn't let me, even though I was working, even though I wasn't making a ton of money, I was making about $1,000 a month at the time, and he wasn't even letting me have control of my own money. Like, it went into our joint account, and he would transfer everything out of my joint account and put it in his personal account. So I had no access to money. So what I did is a couple months before, had opened up my own bank account, and I didn't tell him. I didn't even get a debit card for it because I had tried to open up my own bank account in the past, and he found the debit card, and he withdrew all the money and took the card. So this time I just didn't tell him. Like, I didn't tell him that I had another account. And so what I did is that when I got paid on the 1st, which was Labor Day weekend, I transferred it all into my private account. And I went to the stores I needed to go to just to get my kids what they needed. I went to 3 stores. I went to Office Depot or Staples or something like that to get the school stuff. And then I went to Walmart to get some clothes that they needed. And then the third place I went to was Petco to get food for our cats, our dog, and like cat litter and stuff, right? So that day that was the day I found the ring. The following day, I was at a pool party, and we were in the neighborhood, and my husband was invited. He didn't come. He never came to things. And he was messaging me over and over again, like, what did you spend this money on? And I was like, school stuff. The kids needed backpacks and notebooks and, like, the stuff for their school lists. And then he was constantly messaging me, like, how could you spend all this money? What's the matter with you? We don't have it. Now, mind you, at the time, he was bringing home almost $10,000 a month, not including my $1,000. So he was spending money, and I wasn't really sure on what. I just knew we never had money. I was borrowing money from neighbors to buy milk for my kids. I went weeks sometimes without really eating so that I could feed my kids. It was really stressful. But I was not going to let them go to school without having what they needed. And I didn't care if I was going to get in trouble for it, get yelled at. I was going to make sure that they had the supplies they needed. So the fact that he was messaging me that whole day, asking me why I spent money on things that the kids were clearly needed, right, was hurtful. And so the following day, I went to the only pawn shop in my entire county because we lived in a very rural area. And I walked in, and this is a higher power working in my life, right? Because the girl behind the counter was an old sponsee of mine. And I said to her, I think my husband is pawning my jewelry. And she said, who's your husband? And at that time I had noticed that there was like a bunch of military coins on the counter, and I was like, the man who gave you those. And she was like, I'm gonna have to get the owner. It turns out he had been pawning jewelry for months and months, bags and bags of jewelry. I don't own that kind of jewelry, so I'm not really sure where he got it from, but there was only one thing that he pawned that I wanted back, and it didn't even have any value. He got $20 for a ring that I had gotten from my neighbor when I was 3, and I had just constantly got it like enlarged. And luckily, even after I left, a neighbor of mine, it took him a little time to get it back. My neighbor picked it up for me and sent it to me, which was, I had so much support. Some of my neighbors knew the abuse I was going through, and like my one neighbor, like the same one who got the ring back for me, she held on to like my kids' bikes and things I wasn't able to take with me, because that day I found the stuff at the pawn shop, I left that moment. I left that day. My kids were at their first day of school, and I literally picked them up at the end of the day, right? So all I'm saying is, like, there's a lot more to that story, and I can talk about it for a while, but the reason I'm saying it is that what I've learned is that to get through any hard life choice, anything difficult in life, I can apply what I learned in recovery, right? Surrendering to the fact that I can't do something anymore, and reaching out for help, and then taking the suggestions I got. When people told me to leave, I finally listened and was able to leave. It wasn't easy. It took me a long time to really process the fact that I did the right thing. I'll tell you this before I end this video. So the day after I drove up to New Jersey and left, I started to wonder if I had done the right thing. I thought maybe I had made too rash a decision, and that maybe I should have given him another chance. Maybe I was screwing up things for my kids, and I considered going back. I thought I should go back. I wanted to do what was right. And I literally asked my higher power. I said, please help me. What do I do? Should I go back? Should I stay? What do I do? I don't know what to do. And that very moment, that exact moment, right? Not even a minute later, like that exact moment, I was at my ex-in-law's house, and my father-in-law forgot that my car was parked in the driveway, and he backed out of the garage in full speed, T-boned my car, and smashed the door. The windows shattered, and my car was in the shop for 3 weeks. I couldn't go anywhere. When I do the right thing and I ask for help and I accept it, I get the answers I need, even maybe they're not in ways that you'd expect them, right? Like, I would never have wanted my car smashed, right? But I will tell you this, right? When he smashed into my car like that, I broke down into tears, and he thought I was upset, but I was smiling. I told him thank you, right? Thank you, because you made a decision for me that I couldn't make for myself. You helped me know what was right. Like, I couldn't be strong, and I didn't have to, so I don't know. That's just a little bit into my life. I am going to go into a little bit more details on stuff about that on my Patreon, because as you guys know, my kids watch my channel, and there's some things that I don't really think I need to share for them to hear right now. So if you're interested in hearing more about the relationship and some of the tougher stuff, you're more than welcome to join my Patreon. You can join for as little as $5 a month. It's really just supporting my channel. I don't offer any special things except for a little bit more personal insight into who I am and what I've been through. But if you like this video, or you're interested in more recovery content, please subscribe to my channel. It helps me out a big way. You can like the video, share it, reach out to me if you ever want to talk. My name on Twitter and Instagram is the same as my channel. So thank you guys so much. I hope you all have a really, really great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.